I've been doing a little bit of thinking and something dawned on me. There was a phrase that I heard thrown about much more often when I was a boy than I do today. And I feel like as I thought about it, I can't remember the last time that I've heard somebody say this phrase. It was a phrase that specifically described someone who was dependable, extremely kind, honest, hospitable, servant-hearted. It could be used to describe someone who you had known for many years, who had been a consistently generous presence in your life. But it also could be used to describe someone who you had literally just met that day, and they'd left such an impression on you because of the seemingly superior depth of their character. And that phrase was salt of the earth. Now, when I was a little boy, I really had no idea what that phrase meant, where it came from, but I was able pretty easily to imply meaning just by considering the nature of the person in whom it was being given to as a compliment. When someone was being called salt of the earth, it was obvious that it was a positive thing. And now I've done a little bit of digging because I've noticed that it seems like if that phrase has gone out of style, well, maybe the reason is that there are far less, is that the way I want to say that? Maybe far fewer people who would be called salt of the earth. It seems almost as if they're a dying breed, like they're going extinct. So where does that phrase come from? Let's consider. And why would it even hold any weight or value? The phrase actually has its inception in the longest sermon that was ever recorded from a man named Jesus Christ. Jesus delivers this sermon on the Mount. It's three full chapters actually in the book of Matthew. And this is the first assertion that he gives about what it means to be one of his followers and to abide in his teaching, is that those who do, they are salt of the earth. Now, salt seems kind of like meaningless to us today. It's sitting on every single dining room table. Go to a restaurant, there's always salt. Go to the store, it costs nothing at all. But salt in the ancient world was an extremely, extremely valuable commodity, so much so that it oftentimes would be a substitute for currency, coins, as a form of payment to somebody for labor and work. Like a Roman centurion would literally be paid in salt for the job that they did for the Roman Empire. Like, how could it be that valuable? Well, let's consider what the nature of salt is. Salt, more than anything else, it's an antiseptic. It's a preserver. And so salt in and of itself, it isn't a positive agent. It's not like I put salt on a slab of meat and that meat becomes more fresh because the salt is present. But what the salt does do is that it becomes a negative agent that is combating the harmful bacteria and germs that would cause a piece of meat to go bad and spoil. And so it is specifically not making the meat fresher, but it is preserving its freshness for much longer than if it was absent. And the relevance of that thought is that a follower of Jesus across the earth would be a combatant to the moral decay that humans seem to be so inclined to. It's not hard to recognize that human creatures, we are intrinsically self-preserving. Oftentimes that self-preservation will manifest itself in very selfish behavior. Selfish behavior obviously is putting oneself above another, thinking that in so doing, we give ourselves the greatest advantage to extend our survival, our life. But that oftentimes comes at the cost of another. And it is obvious when you look at the course of history, the tale of our species, that selfish behavior is never specifically advantageous to a culture. but it seems as if it is an inescapable quality of the human being. And so someone who is salt would be somebody who combats and preserves the moral decency of a culture, keeping it from cascading into anarchy and selfish disarray. But even more than that, I think it's worth recognizing that the only quality that salt has isn't just that it's an antiseptic. It also, for us today still, is a wonderful flavor enhancer. Salt has always been something that our body instinctually desires. Why is that? Why do we enjoy the taste of something salty and return to it? Well, it's because salt is sodium, and sodium is necessary. It's vital for the communication of our nerves, for the contraction of our muscles, for the balancing of fluids throughout the body. Sodium is absolutely vital to the continuation of life. So we enjoy the flavor, and it enhances the food in which it is placed. But just like anything else, salt in excess, if I have too much salt, what does it do? It dehydrates my body. Think, I'm lost at sea. What's the number one piece of advice? Don't drink the ocean water because of its salt quality, which will dehydrate you. Okay, in light of all these different qualities, how does this become an applicable truth for us? Like, why would it be a leading point of Jesus and maybe the greatest sermon that he ever gives? Well, I want to give you an example actually from my own life because I think it will be helpful. It's worth recognizing that I am a Christian and I take my faith seriously. And in that, my life, my actions, my words, the effort that I give to the task at hand, it oftentimes seems a little bit different, or even in certain scenarios contrary to people I come into contact with. And when I was in high school, I was a busser. I worked at one of the most booming restaurants on Hilton Head Island, and it was great for me then. And because of that experience, as I grew up and started a family and was still living in the same place, I got to a point where I needed some quick cash. And I was like, hey, why don't I show up and see if some of that relational capital from way back when will pay off and result in a job where I could work as a server and get paid exponentially more than I was making as a busser then. So I went back to Hudson's. This is actually last summer, before I started my first year as a high school teacher where I teach Bible to 9th and 10th graders. And long story short, I get the job and word gets out on my first couple of days around town. There's plenty of co-workers who I'd worked with back in high school, guys who remember me, and people hear what I've been doing in the time since I was there in high school. And I'd done some ministry, and I'd made content online talking about the Lord. And so people start saying, hey, Zach's a priest. And how funny, I'm married at that point. I have my second child on the way. And I guess it just goes to show that people's understanding of the faith, where outside the faith, it's very little. And it's oftentimes because they've felt completely stiff-armed by other Christians and like there was no invitation or offering for them to come near. So I'm a priest. And the connotation behind that was definitely supposed to be negative. And that's fine. So what I noticed though, let's think of those three qualities. Salt is an antiseptic, it's a flavor enhancer, and it is a dehydrator. Okay, well, there are many scenarios, even in those very first weeks, where I'm sitting there in a conversation with somebody, it dawns on them when something more crass or an explicative would slip out in the midst of a conversation that they would take a couple steps back and immediately begin apologizing to me. Now, I could take that in a couple of different ways. And I know a lot of times I'd be like, don't worry about it, man. It's like, it's cool. Like, it doesn't bother me. But it's also worth recognizing that there's actually, there's my little son, that there's actually value in the fact that I was serving as an antiseptic. The decay to their moral compass was something that they would feel convicted on when they were there in my presence. wasn't because I was trying to judge them or look down on them or be morally superior. It was just because there was something, some quality about me that caused them to be introspective and reflect on their behavior and to retract certain things that they would never think anything of if they were in different company. Beyond just that, though, some of the beauty is that I've prided myself throughout the course of my life on not being the typical judgmental Christian who leaves such a bad taste in a holier than thou attitude that pushes people away from coming into an understanding of Jesus. I have prided myself and given concerted effort to not being that person. And so I didn't find that it seemed as if these people would run away from me. If anything, I felt like I created deep bonds of friendship with so many of my coworkers through perpetual and consistent conversations about anything and everything, shooting the breeze, not specifically talking about faith or religion, but just living the moment together and talking about sports, family, hobbies, work, whatever it might have been. We're just hanging out and doing it together. Through that, it reminds me almost of the analogy of like a bag of chips. You take one bite of a potato chip, and what do you want? You want another potato chip, and then another potato chip. The next thing you know, half the bag of potato chips is gone, and once you reach that point, what do you want more than anything else? A big glass of water to quench the thirst that you've built up by chowing down on some potato chips. And Christians should leave a salty taste in the mouth of those who encounter them. And eventually the beauty is I was only there for 3 or 4 months, and I can't say that even most of those who I had a relationship with reached this point with me, but a couple came searching for truth and meaning and advice, and I was able to offer them a drink of the greatest water, of living water, the water that Jesus says that he is. So recognizing that example, I think that that's a natural progression of what it means to be salt and salt of the earth in the world today. Now, the issue is that so many Christians have lost their saltiness. And because of that, the culture is rapidly decaying around us because there is no negative agent fighting against the bacteria and the germs that are causing disease of the spirits, the human soul in the world. Just all you have to do is look at the statistics. And we could say this of the entire world, but I don't think that'd be perfectly true because there are places across the globe where Christianity is increasing and true Christians are being formed. But in the West, in America, the statistics show that the churchgoer specifically has been on a persistent decline for decades. But I don't know if that's even the entirety of the issue. I think the greater point is that so many Christians, they have completely compromised their saltiness because of either being holier than thou and judgmental and divisive and harsh and cruel, and they fearmonger to try to, scare somebody into the kingdom of heaven. There's a pit. But on the other side, I think this is the bigger issue, so many Christians have compromised their moral values. They've become hypocrites, two-faced, say one thing, do another, and that completely soils their witness to the person that they're in relationship with. They look no different from the world, but they label and title themselves a Christian, and they wonder why they have no positive effect on diminishing the moral decay that is so abruptly accelerating around us. So for you, I want you to hear this. I see 3 applications that you can take away if you so desire to be a part of the solution. The beauty of being a dehydrator is that eventually you can offer the ultimate form of hydration, which totally changes the inward quality of the person who takes a drink. When you receive the cup of Christ, you change You are reborn. Where you once were one thing, you now are another. The old is past, the new has come, and that newness is a salt. You are so valuable now to the world around you because of that salt which convicts, that salt which endears, that salt which dehydrates so that the ultimate hydration can be received. So I don't want you to cower away from being morally convicting. If you have a scenario where your group of friends feels convicted about the manner in which they're living because you're there, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. Don't shy away from it. Don't say, oh, whatever, do whatever you want. Allow yourself to love that person by calling them to a greater and higher standard. That's love. That's kindness. The second thing is, in so doing, don't judge, but endear yourself, build that person up, be generous in your spirit towards them, regardless of the manner in which they live, build bridges, and eventually through the development of trust, there'll be an open door for you to speak life into them. And when that opportunity comes, I want you to offer them living water, and do that with regularity. Be quick as someone who's salty to slide a cup across the table. You're a potato chip. You're a potato bag of chips. Give a chip, give a chip, give a chip, give a chip, and eventually slide the glass across and watch as that person drinks. So, go forth as those who have been made new in Christ, and be salt to everyone you encounter. You will be so valuable to the world if you do so. And that is one of the key ways that we can fight against the moral decay that we see around us. It's by literally being the antiseptic to it. But if you're watching this video, you don't know anything about Jesus, you're wondering why the good people around us seem to be disappearing, and you maybe want to be one of them yourself, the invitation is being slid across the table to you. There is living water that will satisfy your soul. Are you thirsting for something? Are you searching in every corner of the world with every vice, trying to find a satisfaction that literally always evades you? If that's you, and you are just so tired, you're so frustrated, you're so confused as to what the purpose of all of this is, I promise you, say, Jesus, quench my thirst. Drink that cup. Receive him. Put faith in him. And he will satisfy the longings in your heart, and he will give you a purpose. That purpose is to go be salt, to stop the moral decay around you, to leave a salty taste in people's mouth, and to spread the kingdom, which is one of the greatest meaning pieces of life. So I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.